I always wanted to act surprised when you guys come on the show, when we go live, like pretend I'm drinking, like, oh, hey, oh, welcome, welcome to the show. Who knew that you guys would show up here? This is so weird. It's almost like it was planned that we show up here every Sunday. So here's my surprise look. What? There's people here. There's people here. Thank you for tuning in. It's a lovely afternoon. I don't know where you are right now in the country, but it's probably like minus 50 right now. There's snow, there's blizzards going on, there's hail, there's all kinds of stuff, but you guys somehow track through the snow with your snowshoes and you're able to make it here. And I'm so excited to have you guys on the show. We have great panelists, and I don't want to speak for like an hour first because these guys are very tough to get. They're very tough to get a hold of. So let's just bring them on right away. And we could jump into today's topic, which is, why does this year look so good when it comes to the rapture? When it comes to the rapture this year, 2026, why does this year look good? Why does it look like it's shaping up to be the year? We're not trying to set dates, not trying to set times in that, but we're trying to build an argument and say, okay, what things have to be in play? What does it have to look like for us to go, we're in that season that we are ripe for the taking? So let's get to our panelists. Welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for joining us on the show. Thanks for representing. I love Mark's background. That is just awesome.
Yeah.
It's great. Got the lines. You got those people in the background.
Yeah.
Those are all us from the backside going up towards heaven, being raptured up into heaven. So it's kind of interesting. I think Derek is right in the middle. Mark could be just over to the, where did we say you were? I think the left a little
On
bit.
the left? Where
Yeah.
with the
Actually,
arms?
Michael's on the left. You can't miss Michael. So yeah, I think Mark, you're a little bit to the right, Mark. I think that's you. I think that's you.
I like that.
Dorothea's to the right. Just on the right.
Yep.
There's Dorothea. Then I think Bob is just to the left of her, and maybe that's me at the very front. I don't know. Maybe because it's my channel. I don't
Closer
know.
to Jesus.
I'm easy to spot. I'm the one that's mooning the trolls
I
on the
like
way
how
up.
you put yourself closer to Jesus.
Yeah, I know. Right? It's my
Mark,
channel. I can do what I want.
It's your Mark. You look like a weatherman pointing your finger to the.
Yeah, that was good. We got some clouds moving in to the right. We got a front coming in, and we got a smoke show.
A solar eclipse in the back.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So, welcome to the show. Let's just dive right into this topic. So that way, when people are watching the replay, they're not like skipping ahead to go, where is when are they going to start talking about it? All they're doing is monologues. So why does this year look good? We'll start with in reverse order. We'll go Derek, Mark, Dorothea, and myself. Or does it look good? Maybe it doesn't look good. Maybe you guys are like, yeah, you know what? The rapture's like 50 to 100 years away. I don't know. Derek, go ahead. You have the floor.
Oh, hey.
You like that, eh?
I like that.
Talk about cheese, man.
I told you before the show, I stand on the shoulders of giants. If I see something good, I'm going to rip it off. I love that. That's great. So why does this year look good? I can tell you very honestly from my own personal experience this week, have you ever talked to an atheist and they're like, yeah, right, Jesus is coming back when hell freezes over? Let me tell you something. Pull up some pictures of my area around Nashville, the surrounding area. Hell has literally frozen over here, okay? This is not our typical weather around here. And we have no relief in sight. We've had ice storms before, but usually it's an ice storm and like within a day or two it thaws out. We're looking at a week of single-digit lows at night. Nothing. We're very honestly, frankly, somebody in the comments was talking about my poor little plow. I have a little plow. It's a little 5-foot plow that I put on the front of my truck. It's not a big deal. I can raise it with a winch and lower it, but it's better than shoveling, And I went out to plow my driveway earlier. I already plowed it once yesterday. I went out to plow it earlier today. It's too heavy. I can't move it. Now, where I live my driveway from the roadside, and my roads are very hilly and very windy. It's literally about 700 feet long and 100 feet up a hill. So I'm kind of trapped here. There's nobody coming in or going out of this place for at least a week until we,
Wow.
because that's just the way it is. So, like hell has literally frozen over. It really reminds me of the Chronicles of Narnia. If anybody's a fan of Narnia and you remember that, remember when the White Witch, when she came into
Hi, Bob.
take over. Hey, Bob. She
Hey,
came
guys.
in to take over control. That was her curse that she placed on Narnia, was like forever winter. That's what it's like. And it's just so odd because, I was actually telling Shane this the other day. And I said, this is off the record, but I'll go on the record. This is how I feel. I could be wrong about it. So don't take it as gospel truth, but
still off the record.
still a little bit off the record. I really, in my heart of hearts, I believe that we are in the early stages of a pole shift, which will lead up to what we will eventually see in the sixth seal when the heavens roll up like a scroll and all the cosmic disturbances. I really think the poles are about to flip. To me, that's the only reason that explains these crazy, wild, violent weather swings. It just doesn't make sense other than that, because don't give me El Nino, La Nina, and all this other global warming, SUVs and cow farts. None of that really makes sense. The only thing that really makes sense to me is like I said, if we are going through a catastrophic earth change, like a pole shift, and of course we know that's the sixth seal when that finally happens, and we know we've got seals 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to get through, and we're not there yet. So we're nowhere close. But I think that lends to the idea of how close we are, that we are getting very, very, very close to the beginning of the tribulation period. Honestly, I mean, I don't want to set dates or be like, that guy that's always like moving to the next high watch date, but I really do think spring looks good. The Passover, that kind of area, that season. I've used this logic before that, biblically, that is the first month. We always look at Rosh Hashanah as, the new year. That's what the Jews call the new year. But biblically, Exodus chapter 12, God said, this is the beginning of months. This is the beginning of years. So it would stand to reason if he were going to work in a package of 7 and start it on a new year, he would start it in the spring, right around Passover. Again, I don't know. It's just speculation. But if that's the case, and that's only a couple months off from now, what we are seeing now with this crazy wild weather, that's not just affecting me, it's affecting this whole country. I think it may be one last big labor pain, one last big push, because I'll be honest, I've been struggling. I live by Romans 8:28, all things work for the good for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. I was quoting that when I had my heart attack, last summer, in the ambulance, I was quoting that. But I struggle, watching this storm and the destruction and knowing all the people that are without power, all the people that, by week's end, I will guarantee you, I don't want to put this out into the atmosphere, but I'm just telling you the reality. You're going to have deaths. You're going to have a lot of elderly people that they're just going to find frozen in their apartments. And I struggle. Where's the good in this, Lord? Where is the good? But I know he's got his purpose. And I think it may be one huge last, labor pain, or maybe not last, but getting close to last labor pains. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's my cold open, pardon the pun. And I will be with you guys as long as I'm able. If all of a sudden things go dark and I have to leave, it's because my power went out. But so far, praise God, we've been like a little Goshen here in the middle of all this nastiness. Our power has stayed on. So
awesome. Thank you for that. And I'm just kind of curious in the audience here. So I appreciate that, Derek. Before we go to, we'll go to Mark, Dorothy, and we'll keep the best for last. Bob, welcome to the show. How many Canadians are on the show right now? Just type in AEH. Just type it in. I think there's one for sure. I know my audience is predominantly American, which is interesting when you think about it. I'm broadcasting from the tippity top, just a little bit above America, just a little bit above. Mark, welcome to the show. What's going on? Is this the year? Could this be the year?
So I have been Rapture watching since probably 4 years ago, and then with the scriptures and the way the things the Lord had kind of opened up to me when I understood the differences in the audiences and blah 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 blah. And I don't use that to boast and brag. This is definitely the Heavenly Father. He could have given that to anybody. Anybody else could have seen that. But we know that Daniel 12:4, the Heavenly Father said he would open the book in the end times. You know, Daniel was told to fill them up until the time of the end. Knowledge would increase to and fro. And I believe what that's referring to is the bride coming together, because Dorothea has a piece, Derek has a piece, Bob has a piece, you have a piece, and I've got a piece. And when we put these pieces together, along with everybody else's piece, we can see a cohesive puzzle, right? The Heavenly Father, the Holy Spirit is revealed so much, not to just our group here, but so many others through dreams and visions, through the scriptures and so forth. And I mean, I like to call Luke's gospel the bride, and the bride's gospel. Jesus was on the road to Emmaus with the two men on the way to Emmaus, and he opened the book to them. And then when they realized, and it all came clear to them, Jesus vanished. And I think that's where we're at now with the bride. More and more things are being revealed to the bride. More and more things are being shared that are making sense now, but never did before, if that makes sense. And brother, I believe we're there. And I know Derek, he said he doesn't date set and move on to the next one. I unfortunately have. And, you know, like we'll look at, and I'll give reasons as to why I feel this way. You know, this is a scripture that seems to connect with such and such, you know, and now moving forward into Passover, I mean, it's in the Gospels, for crying out loud. There are other things that were in the Gospels, but they weren't as well known as Passover, first fruits, unleavened bread, and so forth. So could it be that through God's infinite wisdom, mercy, and knowledge, just like how he planted in Matthew 27, the first fruits resurrection, and we have the spirit of the first fruits, could it be that this provokes the Jews to jealousy, because Passover is a massive celebration for them, and so many other connections as well with Passover. So could it be that Passover is speaking to the beginning of the age of grace and the ending of the age of grace? It sure seems that way. So could it be this year? God, I pray so, because just like Derek said with Romans 8:28, you know, God works all things out for the good of those, you know, called to his purpose. I'm not sure how much good is left in this world. You know, we're gonna keep trying to help as many as we possibly can, sharing the gospel, doing the thing. But I'm not sure what else is left for the bride to do. I really don't know. So this year looks great to me.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that, Mark. Dorothea.
Well, what I'm about to say all gives you credit, Shane, because you changed your background, and I said, well, I've got to change mine because it looks so horrible. So, so this
I like it.
You know what? It's amazing how something like that could happen, where you made me think I should change my background, and you won't believe what I came up with, a whole deep study. So I ordered online. I'll show you these pictures in the back here, if you can see them. I ordered these pictures, and there's 9 pictures for the wall. Well, every single picture has a Bible verse.
Oh, nice.
And this one's the only one that doesn't, and it has roses. So I was thinking of the roses Sharon. But every single one, all 9. So this one picture I didn't put anywhere. So because it was a horse.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought, oh, that's nice. And I love horses, had a pony and all that. But I thought, well.
It's a white horse, too.
Yeah. So this is what started my deep study for the new year, and for that, this could be it. Okay. So the verse on this picture is Proverbs 21:31. And it says, the horse is prepared for the day of battle, but deliverance and victory are the Lord's. So I was thinking, like, I'm going to look up about horses. So I looked up, and you won't believe it. Did you know that the Chinese New Year is coming up? the Chinese have a different time of New Year, just like the Jewish people do. The Chinese New Year is February 17th. And guess what? Every year they have like an animal as that symbolizes the whole year. Well, guess what symbolizes the Chinese New Year? A red, fiery horse.
Oh wow!
Are you kidding me?
No. And this is all because of you decorating your studio.
Wow.
So this is the study, and it ties in with the red horse in Revelation. It's just unbelievable. Okay, so the first verse was the horse is prepared for the day of battle, but deliverance and victory are the Lord's. So when I looked, it says the Chinese New Year is this February 17th. The same night is the Ring of Fire solar eclipse.
Mm.
And I don't know, maybe some people won't know why it's a Ring of Fire solar eclipse. The moon doesn't fully cover the sun, so it creates a ring of light. And that's why it's called the Ring of Fire solar eclipse. So the same night as the Chinese New Year, which is it's the fire horse year. And okay, so the Chinese New Year is the fire horse year, a symbol of it. Oh, wait to hear this. A symbol of excitement and forward momentum, rapid change in the world. It will encourage people to do things with intelligence. Things with intelligence, that could be the AI, that could be the UFO, right? That was always a higher level of intelligence. So I looked up the Bible red horse, and that's in a few places, but Revelation 6:4. It says it will be released after the first seal is opened after the white horse. The red horse is the second of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It symbolizes war, bloodshed, conflict, hatred, and the rider takes peace from the earth for people to kill one another. Now, this is really interesting. In Zechariah chapter 1, verse 8, there's red horses are a part of a heavenly patrol. Red horses are a part of a heavenly patrol, suggesting divine judgment or mercy mixed with judgment. And also this heavenly patrol, it's God's watchful presence. And so this is also amazing. There's another term that's in our world, red horse. It's the United States Air Force elite combat rapid engineering unit. Isn't that crazy? It's called the Red Horse. I'll say it again. U.S. Air Force Elite Combat Rapid Engineering Unit. And then on top of that, a day after the New Year, the Chinese New Year, February 17th, a day after is Ramadan, 24 hours after the Islamic fasting month.
Wow.
All planned.
Yep. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
That's a lot of demonic activity building on top of one another. It's compounding. That's what it's doing.
Yes.
And more blood. And, Islamic's about as satanic you can get. Okay. So it's all about blood sacrifice and all this stuff like that. So killings, death, and everything. So, yep. Makes sense. The enemy, I guess I can start talking now, right, Shane?
Yes. You can continue.
Okay. So yeah, the enemy, great research once again, Dorothea.
Thank you, Bob.
A lot of great stuff you're bringing to the table.
Mhm.
And a lot of great guys did a great job with your Greenland study and stuff like that.
Thank
Greenland's at the top of the map and top of everything that's happening right now. You got the old timers at CIA. They say the old timers, just if we want to know what's coming, just ask the old timers at the CIA. They just say, just watch where the carriers are going. You want to know where war is going to be? Just watch where the carriers are heading.
That's
Wow.
interesting. Yep.
And they're focused around the Middle East right now, to my surprise. And I just saw something they're moving the carriers now to Greenland.
Whoa.
So yeah, so if you want to know where war is going to break out, just watch the carriers.
Wow.
So that's old
Yeah.
timers that the CIA said. So we have you said about the Red Horse of War. That is what's on deck right now. That's all there really is to watch. You know, we're not watching any sacrifices going on, any type of third temple movement. Everything's pretty much a stalemate in Israel with everything. They
Yep.
can kind of taking a back seat to the Gentiles now, duking it out.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's what's on deck right now. And it's gonna be a crazy year this year. That's pretty much all I have to say. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I was just
That's okay.
had to shovel ourselves out of this predicament here. All the snow out there.
How much do you have?
That sounds like a Canadian saying.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm late. I had to shovel my way to the office.
Yeah. I think we
We're
had
trying-
about 7
we're trying to
inches,
like
7
you
to 8, 7 to 8 inches, something like that. So
Yeah.
That's a lot. My
Yeah.
goodness.
mhm. So that's pretty much my deal. So
Man.
mhm.
Was it lightweight, Bob, or heavy?
No, it's powdery.
Yeah.
It's not wet right now.
Yeah.
So it's continuing.
Yeah.
And, you know, make a mention now since we're talking about the snow. A lot of people are saying that this storm is not natural. And I believe it because they chemtrail the crap out of this country over
Yep.
the last week. All right. And everywhere
Snow
that's
won't
bad,
melt. It burns.
yeah. And I was like, all of a sudden, these chemtrails just came out of nowhere, and this storm came right afterwards. So
Yep.
that's DARPA for you.
Mhm.
DARPA does all that stuff.
Yeah.
We have a good percentage of our tax dollars goes to support DARPA, and nobody knows what DARPA does. DARPA doesn't report nothing. They don't give their financials or anything. They're just like, hey, we do what we want to do. Leave us alone. Trump is scared of them. JD Vance is scared of them. Okay, all of them are scared of DARPA. Right, and they just do what they want to do. They're the ones that are responsible for all the chemtrails and, you know,
Yep.
mass producing these storms. Okay, and so basically, why did they do the storm? Well, a lot of interesting theories I'm seeing right now is one, they wanted to produce product movement. So what happens when you start announcing a storm? What happens? They empty out all the shelves at the stores. You're not moving enough products because people don't have enough money. Just announce the storm is coming, empties out all the products. Corporations are happy. Yeah, we're making our money. Okay. So that's one reason why they do it. The other reason why they do it for the timing of like protests and stuff like that in Minneapolis and to make things difficult for the ICE people to do their job. And then on top of all that, they usually wait till a weekend. It's just things I'm hearing right now. People are like, you know, you work all week, but to and from work, and then you get a weekend to relax, and you don't get to relax because the government dumps snow all over you. So now you got to deal with that all weekend. Okay, so it's just nonstop. They just don't want nothing moving right now. Okay, and there's a lot of stuff happening right now with us attacking Iran, but the problem is our news feeds are being pretty much, no pun intended, being snowed over with the storm. So that's another reason why people think they sent the storm. Okay, and probably some other reasons I haven't thought of yet. It might come to mind later. But yeah, there's nothing natural about this storm at all. So,
Man, I'm just looking at all the places that's getting bombarded with snow. And you know what's interesting? In the summer, I was I was all over this company called Rainmaker because of the flooding, some of the flooding in some of the areas, and they have contracts to be in those areas from the government, like from different individual states. They actually hire Rainmaker to come in and to obviously make it rain. And some of the wells, the water ducts, all this kind of stuff were already saturated. And all of a sudden, I forget the name of the town. This where was it called? Oh, just slipped my mind. But there was a town this summer that just got hammered with flooding, and I was talking about it for a while. It'll come to me. But they also produce snow. They help out Colorado as well, producing snow for the ski hills. So if it's really dry, they'll actually send their drones over these ski hills and produce snow unbeknownst to the farmers in the region in the springtime. They're like unaware that there could be a storm coming of snow melting and then flooding them out with their horses and all kinds of stuff that they have. So I never even thought about Where is Rainmaker? Because I had all his planes. I was figuring out where he was landing, where he was taking off, and all this kind of stuff, and watching people over my city make rain, because insurance agencies will actually hire these companies to make it hail just before it gets to the community, so that their cars and their houses don't get hit. So I kind of lost touch with Rainmaker. I'm curious to know, man, if he's in these areas where you guys are getting dumped on and it's heavy, like it looks freakishly weird, like this doesn't seem normal snow. I'm going to be all over it for you guys on your behalf. I'm going to be all over it. I'm going to be looking these guys up to see where they are at. And if I get a sniff that Augustus is over these areas with his drones, I'm going to be pretty upset. I'm going to be singing like a canary from the mountaintops. I'm telling you.
Mhm.
So, Bob, I don't know if you answered the question or not. Do you think this is a good candidate this year for the Rapture?
Oh, let me think.
No, I mean, like last year was a pretty big deal. But the way today started, like with Greenland and all kinds of Venezuela and all that, like, man, last year what started everything was the Cybertruck in front of Trump Hotel, fireworks.
Right. Well, this year as a theme, this year is World War III. That's the theme this year. Okay, World War III and Trump's control of the Western Hemisphere. All right, that's what we have right now. So you have to ask yourself the question: will Trump be able to gain full control of the Western Hemisphere, where he can have his Trump utopia here with the United States, and achieve that without World War III?
Mm-hmm.
Because he wants that. Putin wants the northern half of the eastern part of the world, and China wants the southern half. Okay.
Wow.
Now Israel's in the mix of that. That's your
Mhm.
problem. If Israel wasn't there, then I would say, okay, they could do whatever one of them, doesn't matter. But Israel's in the mix of that. So that's your wild card. It's Israel, because the Bible talks about the king of the north coming down to attack Israel, and I totally believe that's obviously Russia, Putin. There are no other kings north of them. Okay, and of course south of them is China and stuff like that. And China is trying to get a foothold in Canada right now. I don't know if you heard about that. And here's the thing: we had the nuclear war began with China launching missiles from Canada. That's what I saw in dreams. One of the first nuclear war dreams I ever did an animation for, and they had missile batteries on the borders of Canada, launching into the United States. So I'd like to be able to check that out, see if there's anything like that going on right now. All right.
Do you guys remember that it was like the technology behind this weapon was just unbelievable. Like nobody could figure this thing out. And it floated all the way from China down through Alberta, down like from Canada, going all the way down through Alberta and going across into the States.
The balloon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That ancient technology that nobody knew. It's like, well, don't shoot it down. It could destroy America. Like everybody was panicked, and they just left it for days until it went over. I don't know if it was the Gulf or somewhere where they finally shot it down. And I'm like, how in the world we are so advanced? Like we want to go to Mars, live underground for hundreds of years so that we can live above the ground and have, I don't know, a desert region, I guess. But anyways, and yet you have these little balloons that come across and we don't even know anything about it. We're just like, well, this is kind of weird. And what's eerie about it is in World War II, Japan was sending these same type of balloons over to America from the Pacific. And what they would do is they would have bombs on them. And some of them didn't work, or most of them didn't work, because by the time they got to the land, the balloons just ran out of helium or whatever, and they just dropped in the woods. And there was one time, I forget the name of the family. They went to church, they came out of church, they went on a picnic, and their kids went off into the woods to play, and they accidentally detonated a bomb.
Hmm.
This was like in the 50s or 60s. So there are tons, shouldn't say tons, how about dozens of bombs that are on American soil from Japan because they were trying something. They're trying to use the weather patterns to bring over these balloons. And then here you go, a couple years ago, you see China doing the same thing with these weather balloons. I think, man, if you're talking about chemical warfare and you want to change our atmosphere, you send those balloons over, we couldn't touch them. We have no technology. What are you going to start shooting them down above above communities? You're not. So we're kind of held hostage if these balloons start showing up over our airspace. There's nothing we can do about it. And if we shoot them, all of a sudden you got chemicals. Like it's a conspiracy. I'm making this stuff up as the black swan, but I have to look outside and go, what happens if there are other parties that are trying to do this kind of stuff to America, to Canada, because we're going to get hit first, then you guys. And what happened? Like we are so vulnerable because of this winter storm right now. We are. Like, you shut the power off, Derek's gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's back to the wood stove. Like, that's how vulnerable we are. My lights can go out and I wouldn't know what to do. We're so used to electricity.
And that's what's so unnatural too. That's what I started out the show about, being unnatural, because when I moved here, it was 16 years ago in 2010. I did build my house, for, if power goes out, I like to be self-sufficient. I've got a wood stove in my house and a fireplace. So I've got two sources of heat with which I can heat with firewood. And I'm going to tell you, if it goes down in the 30s or the 20s, which would be kind of typical for this area, it's okay. I mean, my house, I could keep it a toasty 80 degrees if I wanted to, just with wood. When it goes down to these crazy single-digit temperatures, we're just not built for that down here. We're not, nothing's insulated for that. Nothing is, we're just, it's unnatural. And, if my power goes out, I'll struggle. I won't freeze, but I'll struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I think they said 1850s was the last time it was that cold or this cold, according to records. Middle of the 1800s. All right. That is a long time ago.
Yep.
All right. And, plus you're talking about those balloons, Shane. There's a whole bunch of, now that flew over during Biden. So Biden is a piece of crap. They're trying to hand the United States over to a globalist platform. And they basically wanted, the entire world to take over America. That's what they want. They want globalism. That's what Democrats are. They're a globalist party. So anything is globalist. Get the illegals in here and all that stuff. Okay, so just understand that. Send the money out to all the world, and don't keep anything here for us. Globalism. All right. So with that being said, when that balloon flew over, could have been a China balloon, basically, and it went over all our nuclear installations.
Oh, for sure.
So it was scanning. So it could have been a Chinese balloon scanning all of our nuclear installation, our grid, and all stuff like that. 1, 2, it could have been a balloon sent by our own government scanning for stuff to take down our grid and points where they could be systematic about taking down our grid, attack points and stuff like that, and people gathering, and it's all a bunch of weird stuff. Okay. But here's another one people probably never thought about, and this is me just speculating, okay, going Black Swanee, right?
That's okay, you're on the right channel for this.
What if this was an atmospheric weather mechanism doing atmospheric reconnaissance for the Nephilim that are in the earth?
Wow. And
this thing is going over and checking out if they taking readings, doing everything, and it's just it's like nobody wanted to shoot it down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it could have been something as crazy as that.
Well,
right.
If we're talking about preemptive programming like movies, predictive
program, yeah. None of us could talk tonight.
I know, tongue tied.
We're using a lot of big words right now.
So I know we're using 3 syllables.
Sounds like
There's a movie called The Man of Steel by Henry Cavill, starring Henry Cavill, and in it, General Zod tries to convert the Earth over so that they can breathe properly. And so when they got there, they all wear masks. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of Nephilim in some ways. They were trying to extract the DNA, the codex, if you will, from Kal-El. Shows you how much of a Superman nerd I am. But they wanted to extract the codex from Kal-El, and it didn't matter if he was live or dead. And they wanted to terraform the Earth so that the Kryptonians can inhabit it. That, to me, is predictive programming 101.
Sure.
yep.
That's the thing. You remember the Nephilim too? When they walked this earth, they had a lot more oxygen. It was a lot more oxygen dense up here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's the atmosphere is not conducive for them to live up here right now.
That's
They're used to that type of oxygen. They'll suffocate up here.
Wow.
So you have to think about that. So how are they going to be able to create an oxygen rich environment? And speaking of which, this is actually not a rabbit hole, but it's really interesting. Is you guys like seen those mountains that are like they look like huge, gigantic tree stumps that have been cut flat.
Now you got my attention.
Yeah, like Devil's Peak or Devil's
Tower. Yep.
Devil's Tower,
Yep.
and these things. I think there's like 20,
Yeah,
25,
like
20
petrified
20 of them,
wood.
something like that. They're all over the world.
Mhm.
And they're cut flat. They're level. You put a level on this thing, and they were just cut flat. And it said it's not erosion. Sorry, erosion is like this. Okay, so basically, what these were giant trees that existed on the earth during Noah's time, which was a very important mechanism for oxygen, like our trees today. But the trees were a lot bigger, which allowed greater amounts of oxygen to be in the air. So God said, well, these Nephilim need a great amount of oxygen, so let's cut the trees down. Okay, cut the trees down. That way they can't breathe the air. The oxygen will drop greatly, so they'll suffocate. Even if they survive the flood, they'll suffocate or have to go inside the earth. Either way, they cannot stay up here. Two, that explains why a lot of humans people think that Adam and Eve were a lot bigger at the time.
Mhm.
And they lived to be 900 years old because it was so oxygen rich because of the gigantic trees that went to the heavens.
Yeah.
And it's actually in the Bible that says where God gave the command for the angels to go cut down these trees. And it's in Enoch chapter 66, where it says that in those days, the word of the Lord came to me and said, Noah, behold, the lot has ascended up to me, a lot void of crime, a lot beloved and upright. Now then shall the angels labor all the trees, but when they proceed to do this, I will put my hand upon it and preserve it. Okay. So what happened? The angels labored the trees, cut them flat. Okay, it's probably an archangel with a huge sword, whatever.
Yeah.
But his hand preserved them, so that way they'll stay preserved and they're petrified. So that way we can see them. It's right there in the Bible.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like in the book of Enoch.
In the book of
Yeah.
Enoch, you can read
Yeah.
it. So that's why we have
So-
these gigantic mountains that look like tree stumps.
What's
Right.
interesting about that, and then we'll jump to Mark, is I did a bit of a deep dive on this a few years ago. You might be surprised about giant trees. And when all the people were coming over from England, a lot of them were like lumberjacks by trade and all this kind of stuff. And the first thing that they did when they showed up to Canada and America on the coast was they cut down all the giant trees, and there was no purpose for it.
Wow.
To the normal person. There was like to the lumberjacks. They're like, we don't know why we're cutting down these trees, but we have orders from the king or queen, whoever was in charge back then, to cut all these giant trees down. And then they would take photographs of them. And I'm not a tree hugger, but when you see these photographs, you see soulless men. There's like 40 of them in a row on the stumps, and it's black and white photos. It almost feels like you don't see any soul in them. And they cut these trees down, and these are not like your giant redwood trees. These are trees that are massive, like 10, 20 times bigger than the trees that you have that you drive cars through right now in
Wow.
California. These are huge trees, but they cut them all down and then they ship them to England, and there's no use for them. Like, these trees are so massive, you don't use them for firewood. That's not what they're used for. So instead, what they did was they built restaurants on top of these tree trunks. They would ship them over and they would make massive restaurants on top of them and dance floors and all kinds of stuff in England to celebrate the cutting down of these trees. Then you got to ask yourself, like what Bob was just saying, maybe there's also a war against some of the principalities, powers, rulers with some of the people, human war against Nephilim and all this stuff that's going on behind closed doors, where they're making deals behind the scenes. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And we're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense to chop down a 2,000, 3,000 year old tree and have no use for it and just cut it down. Like, it feels weird that they're doing something unbeknownst to us. And maybe that's humans fighting back to try and eliminate some of these future giants. They're going to show up once again. I don't know.
Shane, I think there's something more to it. I think Tree of Life. I think these I'm in real estate, and I had a few people in my town. People in Europe wanted they were all trees from our state, and they wanted those trees. I'm thinking that these trees that these guys took down, that wood was sent over there, and there's energy there's something out of it. I don't know what, but there's something that came out of it, and it energizes them. Just like we know that, I'll have to say the blood word, but the blood, the people drink that because it energizes them and gives them new life. Well, I bet you those trees, and don't forget, everything goes back to the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. It goes back to Eden, right? He shall not surely die. Everything goes back to those trees. So this is another symbol of trees.
Another thing too is they have some predictive programming going on about these big trees. If you just watched Avatar, the first one, remember that? Yep. And they blew that big giant. It's like a big tree that they were all living in. All the Nephilim blue beings, they're all living in this huge tree. Yes. And then they blew up that tree. That tree came from. It took a long time. They made it so sad. And I was like, man, what's that all about? You know, I was like, I just started thinking, okay, what's the programming here? Yeah. Cutting down a gigantic tree. It's a whole green thing, but this thing was like a gigantic tree that they took down. Yep. And it was sad as can be.
It was.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's probably some predictive programs that, hey, start respecting these big trees. All right. And because we got these Nephilim beings coming or returning.
Yep.
All right. So they're kind of creating a heartfelt, position for people to be in mentally when these guys show up. Yeah. Okay, through that predictive programming as well. So
and don't all trees have sap? That's like the juice in the tree. I mean, that's how they make maple syrup, the sap. So maybe that sap, that there's something so powerful with that they have to have it for maybe rituals. Maybe it goes back in Noah's day, rituals with these trees. You know how everything else they have rituals from stuff that we've had before.
There is a lot of cultures, I guess, that will worship trees, which is interesting. And when you go back into the Old Testament, I think specifically Isaiah talks about these trees that were in the Garden of Eden. And you kind of get the idea that these were entities because they were cut down as well, kind of like in their prime and all this stuff. So there's hints of it that the biggest tree in the Garden of Eden was Lucifer himself, which is interesting. So like there's symbolism in there with these big trees, entities, whatever. Like there's something going on, because even cutting down trees in Lebanon, like how great is your fall? Like you can't help but see the symbolism there that there are powers, we would call them mountains, strongholds, all this kind of stuff, and it ties in with trees. symbolically or whatever, but there's something going on there that is, it feels like sometimes it's above our pay grade. But when you think about it, even in the book of Revelation, when the angels are coming down and they're starting to destroy things left, right, and center, the first thing that they go after is people. And God says, don't touch the grass. I don't know if he says don't touch the trees, but it's basically there's certain things not to touch and go after the people, like almost pointing it towards the people, which is interesting because I don't know what person would think that they're going to survive the tribulation. Like that they just think they can just, you know what? I appreciate everything that Jesus is doing right now and all the grace and mercy that he has, but I'm going to take my chances in tribulation.
That's insane. You know, the other thing too, I want to make a quick mention about these trees that they're still here at the book of Enoch. I just showed you chapter 66. God said, I will preserve them. Why is God preserving them? My theory is he's going to bring those trees back because we'll need that type of oxygen environment back for the millennial reign for you to live 1,000 years. So he's preserving those trees. And I've seen these tree stumps come back. They start growing another tree right up, a little branch comes up from it. So I think God has preserved these gigantic, like Devil's Tower and all that stuff, those gigantic trees. He's going to bring them all back. Well, and probably pretty quick.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to sit there and wait 500 years to grow. I think it's going to be like he walked there. Hey, look at that. You know,
you
bring it back up. Yeah.
There is a verse in, I think it's in Job, where it talks about what you just talked about right now, about the idea that it doesn't matter if a tree is cut off. As soon as it gets the scent that there's water nearby, it starts to be attracted, whether that's branches growing out to find the water or whatever it is, and then it sprouts. You just give it water and it'll grow back. It's not dead forever. That's the interesting thing about tree trunks and all this kind of stuff. They'll lie dormant. You give it the right soil, the right water, the right atmosphere, whatever, they'll spring back to life. It's actually quite amazing.
So that's probably why they're still there. And that's why God preserved them. Not just for history, for us to understand about what happened, but to also bring them back. So that way we'll have an oxygen-rich environment for the millennial reign. So that's why those big, flat tree trunks are all around the earth right now.
Yeah. That is interesting.
I mean, why else preserve it? Why did God preserve it? Okay, I think that's what they're there for. So, and the thing is, what's going to happen during the tribulation, water, things changing, it's going to be, whatever's going to happen is going to be bad for people, but it's going to be good for the earth. Because what happens to the third of the world, third crust of the earth, everything gets burned.
Yeah.
Right?
Burning is actually good in the long run.
Yeah, for forest. It's supposed to regenerate a forest.
Yeah, you regenerate it by burning it.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So it's like a 2-in-1. It's a 2-in-1 for God. I could burn everything, kill everything that doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I could regenerate the entire Western nations and bring everything back and reactivate these trees with new nutrients in the ground and everything.
Yeah.
And besides, I think that's a great idea because you know how much crap is in our grounds now?
Yeah.
Thanks to the chemtrails.
Radon.
All that stuff's in the ground. It has to be burned away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's a bit of a conspiracy on that note. Surprise, surprise. I was at a bird sanctuary the other day looking around and I'm looking around at all the trails and everything. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Kind of weird that they have a bird sanctuary by the river. Cause I was like, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Like I don't see any birds. Like what's going on? But they're designating it as a bird sanctuary. And then you see photos that there used to be an oil refinery over that location. And what had happened since 1934, there was saturation happening with these oil facilities where they were actually seeping into the soil and going into the Bow River, which is one of the nicest rivers on the planet. And it went in and went south and started harming all the fields and all that. So what they did is they redesignated it to show that we're doing our part in Alberta and made that a bird sanctuary. And then across the river, they made a golf course. So the idea is if we put signs up everywhere that says, hey, don't go off the trails because we're protecting our species, what they're actually saying behind the scenes is don't go off the trails because if you start digging, you're going to get sick or contaminated because it's still there. We never were able to remediate all the oil from the ground because we put up trees and stuff, and trees are actually probably the best way to remediate because I took a land admin course at a university studying all this stuff, and it's actually a good way to get rid of oil spills and all this kind of stuff is you just plant trees in that area and it actually soaks it all up and then basically what do you call it, where it just basically goes in back into the air and it's natural, like we breathe it and all that kind of stuff, but it has to go through that process. So if you have massive trees, it doesn't matter what kind of an oil spill or whatever you have, it's going to clean it up right away. But we don't have trees like that right now. So imagine contamination from nukes, all kinds of crazy stuff that happens all over the world. You're going to need these big trees reactivated to clean up that mess and change the atmosphere so it is oxygen rich to live. So it's kind of interesting. So anytime you see a park, chances are there was probably an oil spill or some chemical spill, and they had to cover it up to make you think that they're taking care of it, but really they're not. They're just rezoning it. Nobody's allowed to live in this bird sanctuary for eons. You can't live there anymore. That should tell you something.
Yeah.
You can't build there. You can't build a mall. You can't build a playground for kids to play in because it's contaminated forever. It's crazy, man.
Absolutely. You know, actually, I want to say nothing. I know Derek was about to say something here. Or
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Another interesting there, since we're talking about the Earth and stuff like that, is somebody made a really good point, and I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't help but say to myself, you know what? That's a good point. Is when we bombed Japan with a nuclear weapon. All right. How long does nuclear fallout last? We can't live there. Isn't it like 100, 200 years, something like that?
Yeah. Like Fukushima, they say it could be an eon.
Yeah. Well, people live in Fukushima right now, and right at they're living there, and it's fine. They're prospering there now.
Funny,
two, and then there's a hospital that was built. It was right at ground zero where the bomb supposedly dropped.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the nuclear facility that went underwater. The salt water went in. Remember during that tsunami?
Yes.
You're talking about those two, Nagasaki and
Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yep.
Yeah, those two.
Hiroshima.
Yeah, you're saying people are living there and it's flourishing right now.
Yeah. Thing is, like, hold on a second. I always thought that if we drop bombs there, it's a nuclear fallout. Why are people living there?
Yeah, no,
things are normal.
It's better.
People never thought about that. I'm like, why is this hospital that was erected? This shows hospital that was right at the ground zero point, and it should have got blown to bits down to this foundation. Still standing. And so they think we never nuked them. We just firebombed the crap out of them. We never used nukes. It was said we used nukes, but we never used nukes.
No.
Ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Nukes had never been used on the population. And I'm starting to believe that because there's no fallout.
Yep.
We just firebombed the crap out of them. That's all we did.
Yes, exactly. And that's, you can go down that conspiracy rabbit hole, but there is something to that because they are 100% back. And that shouldn't happen. Again, if you use that, the Nagasaki or whatever one where the what do you call it, the nuclear facility that was actually underwater they built it I think it was like 50 meters or 500 meters below seawater, which is unheard of. Like that alone is telling you that one day when the seawater rises, that whole place is going down. They're saying, I heard a scientist say that nobody can live in that area, and yet they're telling us with Nagasaki and Hiroshima that, hey, these people were just atomic bomb death kind of thing, and it was so bad. But there were reports that there were buildings that were intact, and then across the street there were buildings on fire, and there are different regions where people were untouched, but yet this whole neighborhood went down like in fire. And now if you see pictures of the place, there are beautiful trees everywhere along both sides of the river and everything, and it's like flourishing.
Hey, you make you wonder what happened to Lahaina? What happened to LA?
They burned a lot of stuff
there? Did they use that
Wow.
weapon there?
Well,
back then?
this is where too. Here's like a little contrarian point of view to add into the mix. Just let's just take the assumption that all the nuclear stuff was nuclear. That Hiroshima and Nagasaki were nuclear. Fukushima,
Atomic.
Chernobyl, everything that we're talking about. Okay,
Yep.
let's just take it at face value. Okay, what are they basing their projections upon as to when human life can take place? They're basing it upon radioactive isotopes and the lifespan of a radioactive isotope, which they estimate. They're like, okay, you can't inhabit this for 200 years. But you're talking to the same people that carbon date this earth 2, 3, 4, 10 billion years old. The fact is they don't know. And my way of looking at some of these situations is I think the earth is a whole lot more resilient than we give it credit for. I think that God has made this planet to heal itself. I mean, look at just years ago, they were talking about the hole in the ozone layer. Guess what? It's healed itself. The ozone layer is not an issue anymore. God has made this world really, really resilient. I think even from nuclear fallout and stuff like that. And we just don't know because it's kind of uncharted territory. You drop a nuclear bomb and you say, oh man, all this radioactive stuff, yeah, it's going to be awful. It's going to be destruction, but it may not be 200 years before, it might be 20 years or 40 years before it starts to become habitable because again, God's the creator. And sometimes I think we don't give him enough credit for his creation.
I agree with you on that. But if I may also throw out there, obviously we know that that Satan is the author of confusion.
Yep.
So what if all of that, and of course, again, just throwing this out there to you, what if the ozone layer thing was just a gimmick or a lie to scare people into submission? Just like we know the thing back a couple years ago was to scare people into submission as well. What's
Yeah,
your
well,
thoughts
even
on
if you
that?
think about
Like, what if the
1999,
ozone layer never did?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
It was never.
you don't know
there.
what to believe.
I
That's
don't
the
know.
thing.
I don't know. Right.
Yeah, you don't know what to believe. And I mean, it's like my daughter was talking to me the other day about some new weapon. I don't even know. She gave me the name and I didn't do any research on this, but apparently Trump announced some new weapon that the Americans have called the discombobulator. Has anybody heard of the discombobulator? I mean, what a great name, the
No.
discombobulator.
That's awesome.
But there's supposedly some new weapons that they use to take Maduro out and all this other stuff. And my daughter says, well, why would they tell us about that? I said, listen, whatever they're telling you about means they've got something else they're not telling you about. Anything. It's like, if you remember back in, I think it was in the 80s when they released, who remembers the SR-71 Blackbird? One of my favorite planes of all time. Fantastic plane. They started releasing the technology of the SR-71 Blackbird. This is an amazing plane. Goes subsonic and the whole thing. And it's like, okay, so they're letting the cat out of the bag now. That just means they've got stuff up there in the sky that they're not going to tell you about. If they're letting you know about the SR-71, it just means they've got something that's light years advanced beyond that, that they're not telling you about. So,
yeah,
exactly. I 1,000% agree with you. They're going to confuse people, or like the scriptures say, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing.
That's
kind
right.
of thing.
That's
That's exactly what they're doing. They're over here with their nonsense, and they're actually over here doing things, trying to keep you focused over. And that was the purpose of Hollywood,
of course,
all of the other stuff, politics, everything.
we
all
like
of
to
it.
think we're more sophisticated and more secure, but when you think about not so long ago, maybe Mark can't remember this, maybe Bob can't remember, Dorothea, but maybe Derek can remember this. Remember in 1999 when they had the Y2K scare?
Yes.
I can't tell you how many magazines I bought that were saying things like the elevator's going to stop, your car is going to stop with your combustion engine.
No computers.
No computers, because you can't change it to 00 and all.
I'm not going to lie, I was prepping for that thing. I was a little bit afraid of Y2K.
Most people were, and I remember working in a facility where they would hire people to come in to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking them, not that I was a nerd, but I was asking them, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, we're just putting some patches in and we're just downloading some software that we have, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to fix this stuff better. I'm like, okay, kind of sounds like to me you're doing nothing, but okay, whatever. And then when 2000 came, it was like, see, we fixed it. I'm like, you didn't really do anything, did you? And that's what happened all over the world. People panicked. Planes are going to drop out. And we bought it hook, line, and sinker. I don't care who you were. You bought it. Don't lie to me.
That's
Shame the
that's because
devil.
they filed their TPS reports, for those of you that remember Office Space,
Yes,
right?
great
So
show.
yeah, that's what they were doing in Office Space,
file it?
was
Yep.
just fixing the Y2K bug. But yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is, and this is what I want to encourage everybody out there with. There is so much junk out there. You really don't know what to trust. You really don't know, because there is a lot of intentional misinformation that is fed to the public, you know, stuff that, you know, and this is what I want to encourage you with. All right. For everything we don't know what's true, we know this is true. We can stand on this word, and this word tells us enough. It tells us enough to know how to live our day-to-day life. And it tells us enough to have a framework to know what's coming in the future. We may not know exactly every detail, you know, when's the rapture going to happen, or how exactly is the Antichrist going to rise to power, who the 10 kings are. We might not know every single detail, but we know enough that we can structure our lives around this book. So no matter what other lie the government's telling us, whatever lie the media is telling us, stick firmly to this word. It is your guidebook to life, and it will lead you all the way to the end safely.
Yes. And here's I just want to play this quick video here, because
we're only halfway through. Let's go.
Where is that turkey anyway? I figured he'd have been on here with us.
No, we're halfway through. But yeah, so why does this year look good to me when you see Trump doing all his kind of crazy shenanigans? You see our government in Canada doing all kinds of crazy stuff, trying to get rid of the Bible. Like there could come a time where if I start going verse by verse through the book of Ecclesiastes, I could end up in jail for hate crimes. It could happen.
Yep.
And it could happen this year. That's how crazy things are going on in Canada. Canada's making deals with China, which is ticking off Donald Trump. And I'm like, it's not me, it's him doing it. But some of the things that our prime minister is saying, I'm like, you know what? I kind of agree with what you're saying on some days, whereas before I would never, because there are some things that Trump is doing to Canada that's egging us on to kind of form partnerships to try and get our oil elsewhere. Because if you guys aren't buying it, and we got the exact oil that you guys need for your fighter jets and everything, and China's saying, we'll take it. I'm like, sell it. If it makes all of us better, sell it to China, because they want to take it. And now we're the enemies.
Here's another thing, though, and this ties right in. This ties exactly into your subject of this show, why this year looks so good. And I don't mean to blackpill anybody. This is going to come across like I'm blackpilling you. I am not blackpilling you. This should actually be a white pill. This should actually give you a whole lot of hope.
What's the definition of black pill? I've heard of red and blue pill.
All right, so you know red and blue pill from the Matrix. Black pill is there's no hope. There's just no hope.
Okay.
And what I'm going to say is a little bit of a black pill, because there, in a certain sense, there is no hope in this world. Okay, I have come to the personal opinion. Trump is just, it's two wings of the same dirty bird. Okay. We had Joe Biden. Everybody couldn't stand him and couldn't stand the Democrats. They put Trump in. We are a year into his term. Nobody has been arrested. Nothing has been done about any of the tomfoolery that's been done under Joe Biden. It was all a bunch of talk. It was all a bunch of hot air. He's signed a bunch of his executive orders. That's great. Yeah. But in essence, nothing's really been done. And what's going to happen? People are still hurting in this economy. What's going to happen is they're going to get creamed in the midterms. And it's going to be a do-nothing presidency for the last 2 years, okay? They're probably going to do nothing but kabuki theater for the last 2 years, trying to impeach him and J.D. Vance and everybody else again. But what is going on in the meantime is he is advancing at a breakneck speed. AI and the system. He is in bed with Bill Gates. He's in bed with Jeff Bezos. He's in bed with
Sam
Altman, all these guys, Larry
Page.
All these guys, all these tech guys, these guys that couldn't stand him 2 years ago when he was running. Now all of a sudden they're all chummy. They're all buddies. And the reason why is because it's all both sides, Democrats and Republicans. All they want to do is put all of America in a cage and control them.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, let's work together, guys. Democrats, Republicans, we'll put on this big show. I hate you, you hate me, but at the end of the day, we're all working together to throw America in a cage. Because once America's in a cage, we can put the whole world in a cage. Once we are taken out, the rest of the world will fall like dominoes. That's what's going on. And so, all the Christians out there that thought, well, let's vote Trump in, it's going to stop the crazy. It slowed the craziness down. It put the brakes on it. But behind the scenes, he is advanced, and everything he's doing with the Board of Peace, and the Middle East, he is advancing the prophetic agenda way more than Biden ever did. But nobody talks about it because everybody's thinking, well, we're going to, we're just going to another couple months, we're going to see America's going to be great again. That's another reason why 2026 is a wonderful year for the rapture, because like I said, things are right now, it's a crazy train going down the tracks, but nobody's talking about it. None of your Christian leaders are talking about it. There's a few, like if you listen to Pastor Billy Crone, he'll call it out. There's a very few, but nobody's really calling this thing out and calling it what it is. Just saying, look, Trump was a big Trojan horse that got in there, and he's advancing the one world agenda just as fast as Biden did. He's just doing it in a different way.
For sure. And if you think about the idea of this year being an amazing year for the rapture, you can't help it by just looking around you. You can't help it. And as a black swan, this is fertile soil for a black swan event. When you get enough people saying it cannot happen this year, that's when I start looking up, because you want more people to say, Shane, you're crazy. This is impossible. We're doing so good. Peace is everywhere. Those are the magic words that you want to hear.
Yeah.
People seeing peace and safety like never before, because we know what happens next.
I mean, I listen to a guy. There's a guy that I listen to. He's a conservative, has a conservative show, does a podcast. His name is Steve Deace. And the guy is politically really, really smart. And he's a Christian. He does have, a panel of people on his show. He's got one guy that's a Catholic, another guy who's Reformed. They don't really represent the dispensational view. They actually kind of sort of poo-poo it a little bit, in my opinion. But for the most part, he's really smart. And he was on there the past few weeks. He gets on there and he's like so frustrated with Trump. And he's like, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask God, why did this man who got shot in the face, why is it he got into office and now he's like so impotent? He's not getting anything done. And if I could talk to him, I want to scream through the podcast and say, Steve, it's Occam's razor, dude. Just use Occam's razor, which is to say the simplest explanation must be the truest explanation. Occam's razor says whatever went on with him getting shot at that rally, you can believe whatever you want. Some people don't even think that was real. I don't even want to go down that road, but you believe whatever you want, whether it was real, whether it wasn't real. Either way, he's on their side. Either way, somebody has gotten to him in the first term. Now, maybe you might argue in the first term. You might argue that 2016, he kind of came in, he was a businessman. But while he was in there that first term, by the time COVID hit, they got to him. And so he made all these promises. He was going to reform everything. Well, the proof is in the pudding. It's been a year, dude. Nobody's walked a perp walk in handcuffs. And nothing is
happen.
Trump, you really haven't changed anything that the Democrats cannot undo when they get back into power. So Occam's razor then tells me he's not serious about this. No. He talked good talk.
I want to build upon what Derek's talking about. A good meme I saw was 3 kids were standing in the kitchen and they had 2 lobsters fighting each other. Okay. And one kid was labeled Illuminati. One kid was labeled Rothschild, rich families. The other kid was labeled the CIA. And the 2 lobsters fighting each other were the Republican Democrat Party. And they're cheering on. Okay. So here's the thing. It seems to be to me now, and if you look back over the years, they're definitely 2 wings of the same bird.
Yep.
But they have a purpose why they're in power. For example, when you had Reagan in power. Okay, when Republicans are in power, they're all about national security and keep Americans safe and building systems to keep us safe. The problem is every time they get in power, we start losing our rights because we want to be protected against all the damage that the Democrats do. So that's what happened. Republicans getting power. So that was like Reagan, and then Reagan, you had Clinton. Clinton gave away all our money. He did a lot of bad stuff, sent our money
Yeah.
overseas, and did all that stuff. And we were all like, hey, that's our stuff. Republican, and here comes Bush. Hey, I'll bring it all back. But we got to change, and we got to institute the internet and do all this stuff. You're going to lose your rights. We got these other laws being passed, so that way corporations can get in there and start using the internet, free speech, and all stuff like that. And then once that all got built, and guess what happened? 9/11. Okay. Then after 9/11 was done, they went to war and got that all done. Then they brought Obama in, which got you Obamacare, started taking care of a lot of bad people in this country, and it swung back the other way. So basically, is every time a Republican gets in power, they build the system that you talk about, Derek, that's surrounding us right now.
Yep.
So that's what they do. Then the Democrats get in power, and they create the reason why we need this system built, and they get the people into it. And then when they get back, they're like, oh, thank God Republicans come back. You guys got to build the system some more.
Yep.
They're like, let's do it. And they start building it more. And then when Trump gets in after Obama's wreck, okay, and then he started building the system. And then what happened? 2020, they're like, I think we should probably put the CIA, the Illuminati, all those. We need to have this lobster win now. So let's put in Biden, open up all the borders, and dump all the people into this country that don't belong here. That way, when we bring Trump back, when the next lobster wins, we can say, hey, we need to create an organization called ICE, then do martial law and do all the stuff around the country, get the internet ID, and get start doing data centers, get these people out of here, start doing martial law. And boy, you see what Trump is doing right now?
Yeah.
And what's happening?
Palantir,
they're building it up.
That we were talking about the tech bros. Palantir, that's Peter Thiel. Palantir, that is the digital. And by the way, guys, I would love to be wrong about this. Please, President Trump,
please help Derek out, because
help me help
I don't
you,
think
Trump.
He's crazy.
Help me help you, Trump. If you're listening, help me help you, bro. Please, I want to be wrong about this. Dude, you're a year into your term. You only got 3 left. Tick-tock, the clock is ticking. Arrest somebody, make some changes, make good on some of that stuff, change this country for the better, but you're not going to, because it's become obvious. And that's the thing. The jig is up for most of us that have a head on our shoulders. It's obvious. And that's why I say 2026 looks great for the Rapture, because we are barreling down the road to the beast system. And Billy Crone actually did a thing. He believes that 2026 is a pivotal year in the beast system. So again, if we're standing that close to the heater, which is the tribulation, the rapture's got to be that much closer, because we know we are not appointed to that wrath, But I'd love to be wrong about this. I really would. But and by the way, Trump, you're not getting any younger either, dude. You can't have a third term. Look in the mirror. You have aged quite a bit just this first year. Sorry to break this to you, but
he's going to be 80. He's going to be 80 this year.
He's going to be old like Biden. Yeah. And the other thing I want to mention too, so I told you guys that pendulum swings, and everything goes to Democrats. Democrats do a lot of stuff to wreck the nation. It swings back to Republicans. Republicans come in, they say, let's build up the grid some more. Let's build up more national security. National security, rah, rah, rah for Republicans. That's what they do. Take away more of our rights, but we think it's a good thing, right? Well, here's the thing. Since we are now, Trump thinks he's going to be impeached, and this pendulum has swung all the way to a massive point where we are bringing in data centers and national security, and we're bringing in ICE and all this stuff. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We're looking for the rapture, resurrection, and tribulation, right? The pendulum's going to swing back the other way now. So when the pendulum swings back the other way, that means a lot of bad stuff has to happen over a period of time that's going to justify the next big phase of Republican building national infrastructure for national security. So that's the thing about it. So if the tribulation begins, my thing is, if the tribulation begins this year, that's right on time, because as soon as the lights turn off and rapture takes place, and the lights turn off, you're going to have chaos all around this country. Lawlessness above lawlessness that you've never seen before. Okay. And that's going to go. And you're going to get Democrats probably back in power, because you're going to have all the wrong people here voting. And it's going to turn into an absolute mess. The thing is, it's going to get that bad. I don't think that we're going to see a Republican come back into power at that point. Okay, I know they're looking at J.D. Vance coming, okay, but if the pendulum swings back in that direction where we go back into the chaos like we did for Biden when he was in power, then that means we got some massive chaos coming. And that aligns with Daniel's 70th week. And then what happens midway through the 3-year period, 3.5-year period, you're going to have those who, if our Congress is still around, it will swing back the other way where it's like, hey, United States is a mess now, man. This is bad. This is really bad. People killing each other everywhere in the streets. We need some massive takeover now of the government for national security. We got the answer, Mark of the Beast. Yep. Okay, and that's when it gets instituted at 3.5 years in.
Yeah.
So it seems like the pendulum is swinging right.
If I could make a bit of a black swan prediction here, this is probably the only place that you'll ever hear this on this. This is why you guys are here. If I were to predict who your next president would be, I would drop Sam Altman into the hat first. That'd be the first guy. He's in charge of AI, open AI, all this kind of stuff. The only reason is I read his autobiography, and he was interested before he became a billionaire. He was interested in throwing his hat to running for the president of the United States. And then he got sidelined with all this AI stuff. But if you have that into place,
yeah, he did
if he gets in, and if you get enough people and he can manipulate the data, as in the algorithm, because he's into AI, it doesn't matter if you guys vote for him or not. Social media will accept him. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Everywhere I look on social media, Sam Altman is the number one guy. Why wouldn't I vote for him? It wouldn't be far-fetched.
We might be at a point, Shane, with the AI that whoever runs it's who the elite, the one world order wants at this point. Because I remember in my town, it was just, I live in a country town, and it was just all, they check who you are when you come in, and then they got this machine. And I said to her, we're just putting the papers in the machine, and it goes to a computer. And I'm thinking way back then that they can change those numbers just like that. As a matter of fact, when Hillary Clinton was running, I was going past the TV, and it was Putin, and he goes, oh, I just want to say to you, Mrs. Clinton, you did everything I'm trying to be like you should.
That's good.
I did everything you did everything you could to keep me from being president in Russia. Well, I do the favor for you. And she goes to bed. Our country,
I remember that. We went to bed thinking they were winning, and then Trump was in the next day. I remember that.
But also, we have to all remember here, the bottom line for everything we're talking about is the one world order.
Yeah.
I saw a clip recently, and it was original from George Bush Sr. And he was saying we're preparing for the one world order when he was a president. So all this is the one world order, which we know has to do with the realm of the Antichrist. And there's so much, like we've said all night long, there's so little we know about hardly most anything. It's like we don't get information, only the elite, and maybe the dark web, Bob, where it's retired FBI. My husband's a CPA, and one of our clients, his tax bill says confidential. So me with my being ex-FBI, I'm going like, this guy, he's in the witness protection program. So of course I did the wrong thing after 3 years of seeing his tax bill. When he came in, I just couldn't help myself. And here I'm thinking I could be killed for saying something like this. Who knows who this guy is? So he says to me, I said, are you in the witness protection program? As I'm saying it, I'm saying, why did you do that? Leave home. Don't even go back to the house like in the Bible. Don't go back to your house. Just go. And he looks at me and he gives me this smile. Like, yeah, you know, like that kind of smile. And then he says to me, across the street from me is a retired federal judge and an FBI director. And guess what? A week later on the street, we know what town he lives in. So on our main road in that town, an FBI director was killed. Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's like we don't know all that's going on. There's so
No.
much stuff.
No,
Right.
no, it's crazy. And I'm trying to make the point that just because you guys have another president doesn't mean I'm here. We could be raptured before that. I'm just saying if you do have another election, that's the guy that I would say could be because of AI manipulation that he would get in hands down. And I think Sam Altman is a runner up to be the Antichrist as well. I will be as bold to say that just because of all his ties and how he's able to manipulate one organization after another into getting them to do things. And when they turn around, they're like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I made this deal. And they keep saying it. It's kind of like he comes in under the radar.
Yeah.
And then once we give him something, control, he turns on us and we didn't see it coming. They're all saying that about Sam Altman. This is not something that I'm just making up.
You know, then come to think about it, I kind of I mentioned about the pendulum swinging, right?
Yeah.
And if we're at that point right now, we got massive government national security things being built, what Trump's doing right now with the ICE, building the ICE army, which Derek made a great point that if the wrong people gets a hold of this army, they're going to be turned against Christians. Okay, let's just be frank. Okay, but be it as it may, things are being put into place by Trump right now that we are thinking is good for our national security. But when this thing swings back the other way, all right, I notice that every time it swings, when it goes to a new position, it always gets worse on the other side. So it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So when it swings back, when I think it's going to be during the tribulation, how about this? What if it swings back after this and it's not a Democrat that gets into office or anything like that? It's the guys in the ships that show up that set up a Nephilim government on Earth. You know, you humans tried governing yourselves all this time, and now you got all this corruption. You can't touch them. Nobody's been arrested, right, Derek? No one's been arrested. But guess what? We can come here. We can clean all that stuff up. We'll get all these corrupt people. We'll execute them right in front of you, and we'll clean up everything here. Who wants to be ruled by us? They're like, and everybody on the planet is going to be like that because they're tired of all of our leadership. They'll love to see them lined up at a whatever and have them all taken out. They'll love to see that. So if these guys show up in ships, I don't think there's going to be an election. They're going to be like, why don't we have these guys rule us? That I like that idea. Yeah, they're also offering us free energy. They're giving us this mark on our right hand so we can live forever and be healed of all of our disease. I could grow a new leg. Then I would say Sam Altman would be the runner up to be the false prophet because of AI and all that kind of stuff. If you have an antichrist or some creature that's maybe a hybrid between human and not, something weird is going on with this antichrist figure, because remember, he doesn't go to the great white throne judgment, nor does the false prophet, nor does the devil. So that tells you something right there. They get punted. They do not get to pass go. They do not get to collect $200. They go straight to the lake of fire. And as far as I know, they're the only ones before the judgment, other than I think the devils that are being chained underground right now, waiting their judgment because they did something evil with women once upon a time ago. According to Jude, they're waiting their sentencing. But the lake of fire was actually created for the devil and his angels. It wasn't created for us. But there will be people that will side with the devil and his angels and take the mark, and they will be assigned, judged, to go into the lake of fire. And there's eternal separation. Whether you think about annihilism or barbecued forever, which is what I lean towards, they're being deep fried for eons, and they're not coming out. There are some crazy people that are saying the devil will come back and he'll be restored, and it's because they don't believe in torturing and suffering and all this stuff. And it's like, you have your chance right now. You have your chance. I talked a little bit in my video this morning and yesterday talking about one taken, one left behind.
if you agreed with me that that's hinting towards the rapture and I proved it in there, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. What you can't disagree with is there's two parties. There's a group of people that are either staying or going, and there's a group of people that are staying or going to get punished somewhere. So you got two groups, good and bad. The debate is, are the good people going up, or are the bad people being removed, and then the good people stay for the millennium, or do the good people leave and the bad people get cooked because of all the tribulation and everything like that? That's fair to have that argument. But somebody's going to get judged eventually. Somebody's going to get judged. And there's no turning back once you take the mark of the beast. You can't argue with me on that.
Yep.
You can't say, well, I'm going to take the mark, but really my heart is for Jesus.
Yep.
I love the church, but I'm just taking the mark. You're going to be really, really disappointed. So what we're telling you right now is the age of grace. You have a choice to disobey God right now today. You have that. And you could also come back to him. You could do that tomorrow and the next day and whatever, as long as we're here. I don't recommend that as any type of therapy, but you can do it. But when the tribulation comes, that's it. You make your choice. That's your bed that you're sleeping in. There's no going back. Once you take that mark, you are done. Deep fried forever. It's separation forever. Jesus talks about that with the rich man and Lazarus. The rich man had his life. He had his chance now, and then went into this area where he was so thirsty, was begging Abraham to allow Lazarus to cross over the chasm to give him a drink of water. And Abraham said, no, it's impossible. You can't cross this gulf. And then the rich man said, well, maybe you can preach to my brothers and if somebody were to come back from the dead and share with my brothers, maybe they will be saved. And Abraham said, they have the scriptures. They have Moses. If they don't believe Moses, they're not going to believe if one were to come back from the dead. That's what's going to happen during the tribulation. You think you're going to make a decision then to accept Jesus Christ? I'm telling you, your fate is already sealed today if you ignore him, because you don't know you're going to die tomorrow. You don't know that. Nobody knows. I don't know when my time here on earth is passing. I don't know when I'm going to pass away. I don't. Derek, Bob, Dorothea, Mark, nobody knows. Nor do we know when Jesus Christ is going to come. But I promise you, when he does come, he's going to be looking to see who is faithful to him.
Yep.
And there's going to be a separation there.
Yes. A parting of the sea.
Yeah. Sheep and goats.
Your options get a whole lot more limited once that rapture happens. Your options are a whole lot more limited. You know, it's funny because I used to think with the mark of the beast, when I was a baby Christian, I can remember, Jesus said, he said, like if your hand offends you, cut it off. It's better to go into the kingdom of God, missing a hand than your whole body to be cast into hell. He talks about your eye. If it offends you, pluck it out. It's better to go into the kingdom of God blind. I remember reading that scripture and thinking, maybe that applies to people that have buyer's remorse. They took the mark of the beast in their right hand and thought, I really messed up. All right, I'm going to cut my right hand off. God, please forgive me. Because, we know that God has so much abundant grace. And so I used to think that, but honestly, I don't think that applies at all. That was a good metaphor, but it doesn't apply at all. The mark of the beast, the more and more that I understand it, it's a one-way street. And once you take it, you've lost all hope. And I am firmly convinced, I think it has to do with transhumanism. I think that when you take that mark, because we hear, like you're saying, they're planning on trying to extend life, trying to, keep you from aging, keep you from dying. I mean, this also explains in, I think it's Revelation chapter 9, when those, weird little creatures are released from the bottomless pit. And it says men will seek death in those days, but death will flee from them.
Yes,
well, why do you think that is? It could be because genetically, you've manipulated yourself to, withstand a lot more than a normal human would. And that's kind of the trade-off there, So your options become a whole lot more limited once the rapture happens. And like I said at the beginning, you might be an atheist out there and you might think, yeah, the rapture is going to happen when hell freezes over. Well, guess what? Look at Nashville and the surrounding area. This is like hell freezing over. It's like a war zone around here. There are huge trees. We were talking about trees earlier. You know what? A new one I've heard on the news. I've never heard this my whole life, and I've been through winter storms before. Watch out for exploding trees. That's all that's in the news. Watch out for exploding trees. Trees are exploding because they're freezing on the inside and then popping open. I mean, it's crazy. So I think we're really close, and your options are going to be much more limited once it happens. So don't wait. Don't sit on that fence. The fence is the devil's property, right, Bob?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The interesting thing, I was just watching, hold on a second. But I was watching a video today. I recommend anybody go watch it. Barry Scarborough did a great video today where he was talking about CERN. Okay. And he did a great video today. I'm going to try to mention a few of the main points that he talked about. It's like 18-minute video. But speaking of the rapture, while we're talking about it, you're going to like this. Okay. This is pretty cool. So basically the video mainly was about the scientists at CERN. Okay. And basically what they're going to do, what's about to happen, the scientists at CERN said that there's about to be a major shift in the vibration of the earth, the human resonance of the earth, and the human vibration of the earth is about to shift very soon. And it's going to shift from basically to fourth density. And basically at humans right now, we probably vibrate around maybe 5 hertz to 100 to 300 hertz, give or take, parts of our body and stuff like that. But in fourth density, that's 144,000 hertz in fourth density. Okay, that will rip a human body apart. All right, your body will just you just can't live in that type of environment. So 144,000, interesting, because 144,000 Jews and stuff like that. But very interesting that worked out right there. But be it as it may, so basically the CERN scientists, and because of CERN, whatever they're going to do, what they're going to do, the Earth, the human resonance will shift to a fourth density, which and here's the key thing. This is what the scientists said. Okay, there will be a lot of humans on the earth that won't be able to make the shift. Keywords, they won't be able to make the shift when it shifts to the next density. So what will that cause them to do? Disappear. It will cause them to disappear. That's what the scientists said. So basically, when we go to the fourth density or the fourth turning, was what they call it, humans will disappear from the earth because they just weren't ready. They just didn't have the right frequency going on. They didn't have the right mindset, whatever. Okay, basically, they were Christians. They believe in Jesus Christ, and they're born again in the Holy Spirit. That was their problem, why they couldn't make the shift. So this is why they disappeared. That's what they're going to say, and that's how they're going to try to explain away why we all disappeared, because we all worship Jesus.
Wow. Okay,
so we weren't vibrating properly because we were all Jesus lovers. Instead, we should be listening to these new space buddies showing up, and basically the space buddies will show up. My theory is the space buddies show up when the earth, the human resonance, goes to 144 hertz, and it makes that shift in the human resonance, and now everybody going into fourth density, and it's a fourth density type environment on the planet. And that's when they show up and say, hey, congratulations, your world shifted to fourth density. We're your space brothers here. We're here to guide you during this amazing time, So, and what happened to all these Christians? Why is all the Christians that disappeared? Well, they weren't vibrating quite like you guys were, because they were forgiven of their sins and you weren't, but it's interesting though that is what the scientists are saying. So you're telling me, if you're a person that's on this platform, say rapture doesn't exist. That's post-trib. That's pre-trib. I mean, that's post-trib or mid-trib or whatever, or it just doesn't exist. Hey, these guys, the scientists at CERN and their reporters, they're saying that no, people are going to disappear. A lot of them are going to disappear when we shift to this new 144 hertz environment, fourth density environment, and we're just not going to make the shift. Other people will. That explains away the rapture.
Now, wait a minute.
Even with that, we had.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
even with that, we had back in what, the 60s or the 70s when they had the seed child or the seed children, the thing going around with the having told that at some point in time there's going to come a day where a lot of people are going to disappear all in one day. And it's because they didn't reach a certain frequency. So that perfectly coincides with what the scientists are telling us today, that they were planning this back, what, in the 60s or the 70s when they were speaking of the aliens and stuff back then. So that's it. That's the Great Deception, part of the Great Deception.
Isn't it also when we leave, there's going to be a great shaking? We've been thinking about the graves of the people that died first that are going to heaven, but maybe that great shaking is the final change of the axle of the earth that brings on everything else.
Well, when you think about here's the problem with plowing through the Bible as much as I have and fast, is sometimes you get books mixed up with each other. So I'm asking for forgiveness on that part. If you guys know where this verse is, there is a verse talking about the shaking of fig trees, almost from the perspective of when it gets ripe, you give it a little shake and then they drop. And my understanding is that's almost like an end times prophecy.
That's Revelation 6. That's what the opening of the sixth seal, it says that the stars will fall from heaven as when a fig tree drops its untimely figs.
There it is. Thank you. I'm going back into the Old Testament thinking, where did I hear the figs? Like, man, start mixing old and new together pretty soon.
Well,
Moses is going to be guiding the disciples. I don't know.
Jeremiah did a thing on figs, good figs and bad figs too. So you may be thinking about that because Jeremiah did quite a bit on figs as well.
Yeah, maybe because there's an idea that you know what, it's time, and you just shake all the twigs that don't belong, and you clean up that whole tree, just everything. Because Jesus actually approached a fig tree, and he was hungry, and he went to reach out to it. It's like 3D here, and. He looked at it and it was the season for it, I believe, and it wasn't ripe. And he's like, you know what? Curse you. And then the next day, the disciples walk by and they're a little bit surprised. They're like, wow, look at this thing. It withered. So it's like, it's like today, if you get anything out of what we're talking about today, we're asking you to press into the Lord. Read the Bible as much as you can. Dedicate a certain time every single day, because there's so many parables that Jesus told that if you bury your talent into the ground, it's almost like he looks at you like, I can't use you to your full potential, your full purpose, if you keep burying your talents and your skills. And if you're not willing to press in, how are you going to be ready and watching and all this stuff if you're always walking around not knowing who you are in Christ? You don't know your identity, and you're just walking around going, I don't know, maybe I'm saved, maybe I'm not saved. And that's the problem that the post-tribbers get into. Every one of them.
Yes.
Every one of them. They struggle with this at the end of the night.
Yes.
They're like, we got to get drugged through, like the bride. We got to get drugged through the mud as the bride of Christ. And then you ask them a simple question. Do you think you could lose your salvation? They're like, yeah, definitely. And they're like looking around scared all the time and trying to hunker down and build up all their equipment, whatever they have in their home, because they're so afraid. And they're like, how dare you say that to me? You should be willing to take on the Antichrist directly. And you just want to escape from here. Yeah, it's an escape plan. Sorry. It's an escape plan. When you think about Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot was being drugged out of Sodom with his wife. An angel grabbed both their hands, and then another angel grabbed both the hands of his daughters. And what did the angel say to Lot? Look, you have to escape. According to Dory, or whatever her name is from Finding Nemo, escape. You have to escape. Why? Because Sodom and Gomorrah is due for destruction. And I can't destroy this place until you're over thither. Thithr. That's a location, verb, or whatever you want to say. I'm not an English major, but that's a word being used to tell you that there's a location transfer. Whenever you hear the word thither, your ears should perk up. These people are being transferred from one location to another. When Jesus says to the witnesses, come up thither, he's telling the two witnesses after he rose them from the dead, come up to where I am. Jesus says that in John 14. I think it's John 14. Where I go, I want you to be with me. I'm coming to get you, to bring you where I am. That is comfort food. Jesus Christ is coming back to get the church, the body of Christ. Now, I'm hoping you guys are in the audience fact checking me on all these verses that I'm throwing out there. But the point is that we are being relocated to another location. That's thither. So whenever you hear that, get ready. We're moving. We're being harpazoed. We're moving places. And I talk about that in my previous two videos, part 1, part 2. Go check that out. It's comfort food. You're going to be excited to learn about the rapture, that we are going one day, and it could be tonight. It could be right during this podcast. We could all disappear today, right now, 100%.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
I was going to make a real quick point about what you said earlier, Derek. You're talking about pole shift. Okay. We're wondering, okay, well, Bobby talked about the Schumann resonance shifting to an extreme vibration. How is that going to happen? Pole shift. If you have a pole shift, a magnetic pole shift can affect the Schumann resonance. And basically, it's affecting the Earth's, it affects the Earth's geomagnetic field. So if you have a massive pole shift, it can affect the geomagnetic field and greatly alter in a different direction. Okay, that's how we can shift to a new, much higher Schumann resonance at 144,000 hertz. That's how it can happen. Okay, anybody was wondering about that. And of course, when that takes place, when it shifts, we are removed because we're not vibrating it the right way. And I always talk about that. If we're not vibrating the right way, we disappear because it's a backfire. We backfire because we're not vibrating the right way to go on to the fourth density. Essentially, it's a backfire for us, so we disappear. I tell you what, that's a great backfire, if you're asking me. But I just want to mention that also while that was on my mind. But go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, all I was going to say was, kind of piggybacking on what you said there, Shane, as far as those that don't believe in the tribulation and preparing for or those that don't believe in the rapture and preparing for the tribulation, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of preparation. Okay. I mean, look at what happened here in the storm, and you may be at a different level of preparation. Everybody's at different levels. Not everybody can afford a generator, but you should, if you can have a generator, have a generator. If not, have some extra blankets, have flashlights. Everybody should be prepared a little bit to try to, but when it comes to the tribulation, that's something that nobody can prepare for. And that's what I don't think that people fully understand, is that you can't prepare for the Antichrist. There's no way. And a lot of it is, if you understand the Greek language and the words that are used for tribulation and wrath in the Bible, tribulation very often, Jesus says, in this world you'll have tribulation. Well, that's the word thlipsis, and thlipsis is just a kind of a common, like a tribulation that's common to all men. It's like even women going through labor pains. That's a common tribulation. It's not something uncommon. It's just something we all go through. We all have to work for a living. We sometimes lose a job, or those are common tribulations. People get sick, people die, common tribulations. But then there's other words that, and I've talked about orge, which I'll get into a minute, but I heard somebody one time ask me a question about the wrath of the devil, because in Revelation 12, it says, for the devil has come down with great wrath. That word is I can't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but thymos or something like that. It's the word from which we get thermostat from, which means it's regulated. The devil's going to come down with great wrath. He's going to turn his thermostat way up.
Right.
But it's like you can only turn the oven in your house to about 450 degrees. You can't turn your oven up to 4,000. There's a limit. Okay. And that's the devil. There's a limit to his wrath. But then when we talk about God's wrath, that's when we're getting into the orge wrath. And that is what begins at the first seal. Not going to go into it, how you can prove this out by the Greek language. But, if you're looking at the sixth seal where they say the wrath of the Lamb has come, the wrath of God has come, you have to, in the Greek language, go all the way back to that very first seal. It ties it in the Greek language. Trust me on this. But the orge wrath, that is unrestrained. That's the word from which we get orgy or orgasm, and it means an unrestrained passion. You can see the connotation in those words, the English words that we understand. It's an unrestrained passion. Only in this case, it's God's unrestrained passion, and it's not of a sexual nature. It's unrestrained. His anger, he's going to just cut loose. He's off the chain. Okay, here it comes. Which, by the way, implies a restrainer. Right now, the restrainer is restraining God's wrath. That's what makes this whole scenario so very different. If you are a Christian, you will not go through the great tribulation because that is God's wrath. It's being restrained right now. And that's what you have to understand. You could prepare. You could prepare for the thlipsis. That's nothing wrong with that. Hey, I'm going through some thlipsis right now with this crazy weather, and it's good to prepare for that. You can even prepare maybe for the devil's wrath in a certain sense, although that's not going to be released until the tribulation. But, there are times that spiritual warfare cranks up a little bit hotter than others. We get that. Mm-hmm. But the pure, unadulterated wrath of God, that was actually poured out on his son on the cross 2,000 years ago. So right now it's being restrained because we, the church, are in the world. We are the people that have accepted that payment. So why would he pour that out on us? That's why it's being restrained. But once we're out of here, that's the whole key. Once we are out of here, now it's unrestrained. Now he's going full bore on the people who refuse to accept Jesus. So
exactly. When you read the book of Job, which I'm about to embark on, because I'm almost done. I just have to read Job all the way to the end of Song of Songs, and then I'm done. Song of Solomon. I'm done the Bible. But in Job, it talks about the devil's greatest beef with Job was, arguably with God as well, was that God placed a hedge around Job. He's like, if you didn't have this hedge around you, he would curse you to your face.
Yep.
So that tells me that there is a hedge around people. Yep. And I think, to me, if I go Black Swanee for a second, I feel like there's a hedge about the church being protected right now from the wrath of the devil. So if you remove us, he's going to be able to unleash his wrath upon the inhabitants of the earth, minus the 144,000. I can't speak for anyone else. I can't say you're going to make it in the tribulation. Oh, you're going to make it because you have a deep enough bunker. I promise you, you cannot hide from the wrath of God. You cannot hide from it. So if you think you can, there's something going on in your mechanism that you think you have something on God that you know that he doesn't know. And we know that from the book of Revelation. This is coming upon the whole world. Jacob's trouble. It's the whole world gets into trouble and there's nowhere to hide. Why do you think the elites are saying rocks fall on us?
Yep.
Because there are pockets of people.
I'd rather them fall on their heads.
Exactly. There's pockets. There's going to be pockets of people that cannot unlife themselves to get themselves out of this situation. So I don't know. Maybe they're hooked up to these machines and they're paralyzed and they're dreaming, or who knows what it is, whatever nightmares are going on, but they're getting stung over and over again and they wish that they were unlifed. That could be you. That could be you if you don't believe in Jesus Christ. You could be stung over and over by these things that are, these entities that are coming out of the bottomless pit, and they're targeting human beings. Angels are going to come at people. We think, oh, they're just playing harps up in heaven and that's it. Meanwhile, they can't wait to destroy those that come across God, that hate God, that hate his son, Jesus Christ. Imagine Jesus saying, go get him. Go get him, Tagger. Yep. Whatever you guys want to do it. But do it with the full amount, the full wrath, the full permission of God himself, of the universe, to rain havoc on earth. That's the environment you're going into after the rapture. And we're telling you, you don't have to go that route. You don't have to go there. And I will sleep like a baby tonight because I'm telling you every single day to give your heart over to Jesus Christ. And when you're standing in front of the great white throne judgment, you can't look over to me. I will have tears for you, but you can't look over at me and say, why didn't you tell me about this? Why? When you have people from Nineveh on one side looking and condemning people saying, look, we were preached at by Jonah and we accepted his word and we didn't get destroyed. You guys have the gospel. You have the Bible. We don't understand why you guys rejected Jesus Christ. You had so many chances. There's so many channels on YouTube right now that it's just crazy how many people are saying, repent, return to Jesus Christ, return to the Lord, turn from your wicked ways, come back. And you say no, and you laugh and you mock us, and you create videos to say these guys are scammers. Look at them. All they do is talk about Jesus Christ coming back because we love him. That's why we're talking about this. That's why we're warning you guys endlessly.
Absolutely. You know, interesting too is Bible says, and they called off the rocks to fall on their heads and hide them from the wrath of the Lamb. Okay. And I always looked at that too, like, you know, they're going to be in underground bunkers, and they're hoping that these rocks. Another way of looking at it too is these rocks will reinforce where they're at. Not only are you 100 feet underground, now you got 50 feet of boulders on top of you. So this should help you hide. Like I said, hide us from the wrath of the Lamb. Okay, who could stand this day and stuff like that. But here's the thing: at the end of the tribulation, Jesus sends the harvesters to gather the wheats and the tares. If you're a terror, you're hiding in that bunker. And let me ask you something. Do you think that angel has any problem reaching you if you're hiding 100 feet on the ground? No problem reaching you. They teleport right to you. Boom, they appear. You're going with me. Teleport right to Jerusalem. They can do it. Okay. So they can hide on the ground. And Jesus knows he has to send the harvesters to gather everybody from the white throne, not the white throne, but the separation of sheep and the goats, and put all the tares into bundles. Okay, so the angels go on the surface of the earth, gather up all the bad people, and they go inside the earth and gather up all the bad people that are still living, and they bring them to Jerusalem for the judgment. So nobody's going to, like you said, Shane, nobody's going to be able to hide from Jesus. Because look, you're not going to have a millennial reign with these dirt bags hiding on the ground, popping their heads up every now and then, talking crap about our Lord and Savior. That ain't going to be happening. Okay, you got the devil sealed away in hell for 1,000 years. What makes you think you guys will be able to be about inside the earth and doing what you're doing when your leader is sealed away in hell? That just doesn't make any sense.
If he can't hide, why do we think we can hide?
Yeah.
Weird.
So yeah, you don't want to be here for it.
Nope.
No,
you don't have to be.
And there's stories, history in the Old Testament where one of the last kings, when Nebuchadnezzar was invading Jerusalem with his army, one of the kings, Derek would probably know who he is, actually escaped at night, and he took off with his sons kind of through some of the channels of Jerusalem and went out into the open, and they actually caught him and they brought him to another town. I forget what the name of the place was, but he was tried before Nebuchadnezzar. And before he was executed, his two sons were blinded, or were killed in front of him, I should say. And then he got blinded, and then he got chained, handcuffed, and drug off to Babylon. He thought he could escape God's, basically, ultimately, it was God's punishment to Israel, because there were so many prophets being sent to them one after another, and they would stone, they would cut them up, they would punish them, they would throw them into wells, all kinds of stuff. And God would plead with them, mercy after mercy, saying, return, return, return. And then it got to a point where, Jeremiah, you got to let these guys know there's a storm coming. They're coming. They're on their way even right now as we speak, and they're not going to stop till this whole place is destroyed. And they still thought that they can escape. They were making deals with Egypt. And God says, you know what Egypt is good for? Egypt is good for going, you know what? That's a great idea. Let me sit on it for a little while.
Yeah.
Let me think about it. I'm still thinking. I know you guys need help. That's what they are famous for doing back then, not helping you at the time that you need it. And I reject that covenant that you make with these guys. I reject it because you think you're safe. I will go and find you in Egypt. I will hunt you down personally. Before I was for you, and the exact energy that I used to be for you, I'm going to use that energy against you. If you flee to Egypt, I want you to go to Babylon instead. And there are many that left. They actually kidnapped Jeremiah and took him to Egypt. There's all kinds of prophecies around that and stuff. The point is, you can't hide. You can't hide.
Yep.
You can run, but you can't hide.
That's
Run,
for
but you
sure.
can't hide. It's probably where that saying came from.
Yeah.
It was Hezekiah, I think, or something like that. I forget what the last king was.
So what has our whole life been predictive programming? Bob, when you were talking about vibrations, I'm thinking of the Beach Boys songs. Good, good vibrations.
Yeah, there you go. That's funny. Yeah. Okay. So we are almost at the 2-hour mark, which is interesting. We almost have, like right now, I'm just looking at the counter here. It almost got to 666 views at one time. I'm like watching it go to 660 and then jump up to 670. Don't hang out on 666.
That's right.
But let's just go around and final thoughts here. I felt like this has been an awesome show today. So thank you guys for being on here. Final thoughts. Let's go around the table. We'll go whoever wants to jump in. Like there's only 5 of us here, so go ahead. Whoever wants to give a final thought.
I guess I'll jump in because then I'm going to jump out and get some dinner. So I just wanted to say thank you for having me on. I'm glad that I had a chance to be on. Thank God that the power is still running.
Amen.
And for anybody out there that's struggling with power issues, I pray over you now in the name of Jesus. Lord, show mercy. Just show the same grace and mercy to them as you've shown to me, and continue to show me and my family mercy. I pray my power stays on. If it does, I will be here Wednesday. Some of you had some questions. I copied them down, and if I have power and internet, I'm going to have unanswered questions on Wednesday. I will answer them then. And if not, it'll be next week. But great show. I really do appreciate coming on. And I mean, it's just, again, this year, it's looking very good. There's a lot going on. I mean, it's just, the world is quaking right now. So anyway, God bless you guys. I'm going to run and get a little bit of dinner, but it's been great being on with you guys, and hope to see you later in the week.
For sure.
Good night, everybody.
God bless. Take care, bud.
Bye-bye.
Derek.
Bye, Derek.
Mm-hmm. Are you going, Dorothea?
Okay. Once again, I just have to say, February 17th is the new Chinese New Year. And the name of the year is called the Fire Horse. And remember I did that, some of the signs of the new year with prophecy. And one of them was about that people would get fed up and have riots, which we've been seeing this whole past week and even the week before. It's getting out of control now, where the people are in the streets. And in these cold temperatures, Occupy Wall Street, when winter came, you never saw them. That was it. These people, they're out in these frigid temperatures and they don't care. They are on fire for these riots right now. And that's not good, because it's just going to keep building up. They think it's a cause. Even in my own town, that never anything, no parades, no nothing. Now, all of a sudden, the past 2 years, every day we have all these people demonstrating in the cold. And I see them, they're all excited. It's like the Tower of Babel. If we all have one mind, there's nothing we can't do. And it's just like that's what's happening. So with the Chinese New Year being, and for anyone watching, this is, the belief with all that is not Christian. But, the devil takes whatever God has and tries to copy it and tries to distort it. So anyway, they still have ideas about things, all these other people that aren't Christian. And for them to do this, and then the same night that it starts is the Ring of Fire solar eclipse. You see, everything's fire. And even in this conflict with the red horse in the Bible, it's war, bloodshed, conflict, hatred. And that's actually what we're seeing a lot in America with these demonstrations. It's building up. And Bob, I wanted to ask you, or Shane, maybe you know, remember when Trump had to met with, was it 700 generals? Or it was a lot, right? It was either 70 or 700, but I think it might have been 700. What was that about? Was that because of what's coming? He was letting all the generals know that the UFOs or we're going to have the riots and demonstrations, or we're going to do nuclear stuff, and getting them on board because it was something major. Never heard of that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did that because of they didn't want getting out. They just talked face to face. They announced something big was coming, and I think that big thing that's coming is they basically announced to everybody, "Hey, we're taking over the whole Western Hemisphere." So this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. We'll start with Venezuela, then we're going to move our way to Greenland or
Then
attack
Canada.
Iran. Go to
Canada.
Get Canada, get Mexico. All right. So here's the plan. You're all here. We're not. Everybody got their flash drive or folder. Don't send nothing over the internet. Here are your marching orders. And I think that's what that thing was all about.
Yeah.
So that way nothing got. Nobody was able to catch anything anywhere. And so that way nobody saw Venezuela coming. Nobody saw that coming. So a lot of the things they're doing now, you can kind of maybe kind of predict like where the carriers are going, what's going to happen, but you don't know what's going to happen when the carriers get there. Okay. You don't know if they're going to use a weapon of mass destruction, that vibration weapon. You don't know what they're going to do. Okay. So, and I guess since I'm talking, I might as well finish up. But outside of that, it's been a great show. This has been a really good show. There's some good stuff we got into today. And I love talking about the rapture, but I also love talking about the science behind the rapture. I love talking about the science behind it, even though First Corinthians 15:51 says that, behold, I show you a mystery. It is a mystery, but I think there's some science behind it that God allows us to understand, that kind of gives credence to the event, and especially our enemies know that there is an event of people disappearing from the earth when we switch over to the new. It's all messed up and wavelengths change and all kinds of stuff. And that's a definite possibility how God can do that. So the earth is going to go through some major changes, because once that happens, then you got to be able to bring all these trees back that we talked about. You got to change the oxygen in the air. It's going to be incredible what God's going to be doing here. So a lot of things we think is bad is actually God restructuring the earth to prepare it for the millennial reign, so it'll prosper the way it's supposed to during the millennial reign. But unfortunately for those who are on the earth, the demolition is kind of like judgment for them. So I think that the ice that falls from heaven, that Shane always talks about, Book of Revelation, you got 200-pound balls of ice. When the earth, when the sky, when it gets that cold up there, you got to have a lot of water that goes up there to create all that ice balls. I think that's all part of the process of changing this world over and preparing it for the millennial reign. But it looks like judgment to us, and God's like, "Nah, I'm just restructuring." That's like, like I'm renovating my house, and you get smacked in the face with a piece of drywall, okay, and the dust goes everywhere. You're like, "This is horrible," and I'm like, "No, it's just drywall going up. You shouldn't be here while I'm sanding it." Okay, so it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So that's what's about to happen. The earth's about to be renovated for a Messiah, so he can return. So this could be a great place for him and for us to come back and do what we need to do as we travel from heaven, from earth to heaven. Because I'm not going to stay here all the time on the millennial reign. I'll be up in heaven a lot. So, but this is what's happening. So we're starting to see that. And I think what Shane, what you mentioned and what Derek mentioned, this storm is the beginning of it. Might be that final birth pain that's going to push us, to get Daniel's 7th week started, this whole thing. Who knows? So, but that's all I got to say right there.
Good.
Thank you.
So hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I know I was having some technical difficulties earlier with sound.
Can hear you.
So we look at Luke 24:31, and their eyes were opened, They knew him, and he vanished out of their sight. The only word mentioned, this word vanished is only mentioned in Luke's gospel. It's not mentioned anywhere else in Scripture. We all are getting sick of this world. We are not Lot's wife. Remember Lot's wife mentioned in Luke 17. We're sick of it. We're sick of the man cold that I'm currently dealing with. Thought I was going to die earlier today, but no, laying all jokes aside, there is so much knowledge increasing these last moments that we're in right now. All of the bride is coming together for these puzzle pieces, and I think it's very clear that this year would be a perfect year for the rapture of the church to happen, in my honest opinion. The closer we get to that day, I believe the more Holy Spirit is going to reveal to us through His Word. And then after the rapture of the church, I believe this book and this knowledge is going to stay open even for them during the time of tribulation. According to Revelation, it seems very clear that John was told to keep the book open. So I believe after Daniel 12:4, which we're seeing the increase of that knowledge now, we know that after the rapture of the church, that knowledge will constantly increase or be revealed at its peak, which is why we, the bride, have to be removed. Because if we're not removed, then we're going to be yelling, "Oh, that's the AC. Oh, these are the bad things that are coming out of the pit. Oh, this is, so on and so forth." So anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for having me on today. I apologize for not being as talkative as I usually am. I've been working on, the other day, the Lord had given me an opportunity to buy a couple of little Bibles. So I've been working on writing in them and trying to get them set up. And I'm praying that my house will stay standing after the Dead in Christ rise, so that I can have people come here, the tribulation saints come in, and have some knowledge that they can start studying in on during that time. But anyways, love you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Love you. Get better.
God bless you, brother.
God bless you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been a great show today. So thanks everyone for being here today. Thank you to my audience for being on the show. If you ever have any questions or anything whatsoever, just send me an email. If you don't know anything about Jesus Christ and you are curious, how do I get saved? What does it mean to be saved? What does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean? Like, why do I have to read my Bible? All this kind of stuff. Email me and I'll go on a video chat with you. It'll be just me and you one-on-one. I will, to the best of my ability, explain Christianity 101 to you so that when we get off the video chat, you will know what it takes to be a Christian, who you are in Christ. If you're already a Christian, you can email me your prayer requests, whatever it is. But I'm actually reaching out to those that don't know anything about Jesus Christ, and they may not know or understand what we were talking about today, that Jesus Christ is coming back one day. I can explain it to you personally, one-on-one on a video chat. So I'm willing to do that for you. All you have to do, though, is you have to reach out to me. You have to email me. I can send you a video link, and then we can hook up and we can chat. I can walk you through everything. I can pray for you. If you have an unsaved spouse, I can pray for you as well. That is my specialty because that was passed to me from my wife. She prayed for me. Miracles in my life because of my wife. And I would say that is the best way to attack your spouse is through prayer, not by preaching to them. So that could be for somebody out there right now today. Don't know, but maybe that's for someone. So thank you guys for being on here again. I appreciate you guys. If you don't mind, just hang out in the background, and we'll see you guys in another video. You got anything going on this week on your channel, Bob?
Outside of the normal, I know we're meeting up this upcoming Friday to talk
Friday,
about Feed My Sheep Today live. So
yeah.
And by the way, forgot to mention that this is the first time actually Shane's channel. This is actually being live. This is actually live on my channel now. Nice. So I figured out how to do that. So now Shane is now live on my channel, just like Uptime.
Nice.
So you joined the ranks of Uptime.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So cool. Yes. Yeah. This Friday, feel free to join us. We're going to be talking about Feed My Sheep today. We usually spend about an hour or so talking about what's going on. in the world of Feed My Sheep today, how you can give, how you can donate, what projects we're working on. And from time to time in the future, we're going to plan on getting some of our missionaries on to be able to talk to them as well. So that's coming down the pipes, including people like Michael as well from Centurions of Faith. Tell us a little bit about what's going on, all that kind of stuff. So tune in on Friday. That's going to be in the morning around 10 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Standard Time, 11 o'clock Central. So make sure and watch out for that on my channel. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because I know YouTube, stop it. Stop unsubscribing people. They're notorious for that.
Exactly.
My mom was unsubscribed 3
Exactly.
times. Three times. I don't think
Horrible.
it was my mother. So thank you guys. All right. Have a good night. See you guys later. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
God bless.
Thank
Take care.
God bless, guys.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fuel this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.